In this video, I'm going to break down what self-sabotage really is. Hi, I'm Jeffrey, a licensed therapist, and first I'm going to walk you through the most common ways self-sabotage shows up. This way you can start spotting it in your own life. Next, I'll explain the real reason we do it, because it's not random and it's not weakness. It's usually tied to the core beliefs that you carry about yourself. And finally, I'll give you practical tools to break the cycle, simple strategies you can actually use to stop holding yourself back and start moving forward. Okay, so first let's dive into a few ways self-sabotage shows up. Number one, not putting in effort. One of the most common forms of self-sabotage is not putting in effort. And I don't mean just lying on the couch doing nothing. I'm talking about procrastination, avoidance, forgetting to do something until it's too late, or suddenly convincing yourself that cleaning the house, reorganizing files, or binge watching an entire season of a show is somehow more urgent than the one task you've been avoiding all week. On the surface, this looks like laziness. That's the label many people give it, but underneath, it's rarely about laziness, it's about fear. Here's why. If you give something your absolute best effort and still fail, it might confirm the fear you've secretly carried for years. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm a fraud. And that thought is terrifying. So instead, people avoid. They hold back. They wait until the last minute. They cut corners because then if things don't work out, they can fall back on the excuse, well, I didn't really try. If I had actually studied more, prepared better, or started earlier, it would have gone differently. That excuse softens the blow because failure can be blamed on effort, not under self-worth. It's a clever defense, but it's also a trap because every time you avoid putting in full effort, you're telling yourself you don't deserve a real chance. You're reinforcing the belief that it's safer to abandon yourself than to risk rejection or failure. And in the long run, that's far more damaging than the failure itself. Think about how this plays out in real life. The student who doesn't study until the night before the exam can say, I would have done better if I started earlier. The athlete who skips practices then explains a poor performance by saying, well, I wasn't really in shape anyway. The entrepreneur who keeps their business idea in the planning stage forever because once it's out there, it can actually be judged. These aren't random mistakes. They're subtle ways of protecting the ego. And the tragedy is they also guarantee that growth never happens. The fix here isn't to scream at yourself to just try harder. That only fuels shame. The real fix is to change how you define success. Most of us measure it only by outcomes, by grades, wins, sales, or likes. But if outcomes are the only things that matter, every failure feels like a verdict on who you are. Instead, start praising effort. Effort is what you can control. And when effort itself becomes the win, you take back your power. For example, I studied for 2 hours today and that matters. Or I showed up to practice even when I didn't feel like it. Or I made that phone call that I have been avoiding for so long. This isn't lowering the bar. It's teaching your brain that growth comes from action, not just results. And here's the paradox. When you stop tying your worth to outcomes, you free yourself up to perform better. You release the weight of perfection and give yourself permission to experiment, to improve, and to keep going even if the result isn't immediate. That's how you escape the trap of self-abandonment and start building real confidence by valuing the process, not just the prize. Number two, creating drama. Another way people self-sabotage is by creating drama. This one surprises a lot of people because on the surface, it doesn't look like sabotage. It just looks like conflict. But think about it. Things are calm, life is going well, maybe you're finally happy, and then suddenly you start a fight, you nitpick, you stir up chaos, you create conflict where it didn't need to exist. It can happen on vacations, during holidays, at family gatherings, even on birthdays. It doesn't matter how good the moment is. If your nervous system has been trained to believe that peace doesn't last or that joy always comes with a cost, then calmness can actually feel uncomfortable, almost threatening. So instead of relaxing into that happiness, the brain says, let's disrupt this before it gets disrupted for me. Because if you ruin it first, at least you're in control of when it ends. This usually comes from a core belief that happiness isn't safe. Maybe you grew up in a home where good moments were always followed by something painful. Maybe peace meant people were walking on eggshells before the next explosion. So now, as an adult, your body doesn't trust peace. It expects the other shoe to drop. That might look like picking fights with your partner on vacation, kitchen, bringing up stressful topics during family dinners, or nitpicking small problems at work right when things are going smoothly. It's not that you want conflict, it's that your mind equates chaos with familiarity. The deeper work here is learning to sit with peace without trying to disrupt it, to remind yourself, I'm allowed to feel joy, I'm allowed to relax, I don't need to sabotage what's going well just to feel safe. And the more you practice letting happiness exist without interference, the more your nervous system learns that peace isn't a threat, it's something you can actually trust. Number 3, negative self-talk. The third way people self-sabotage is through negative self-talk. We don't usually think about this as sabotage, but it absolutely is. And this is because you have a relationship with yourself. And if that relationship is built on constant criticism, comparison, and shame, you're undercutting your own motivation and self-worth before you even start. Think about the phrases you might use when you're stressed. I'm such an idiot. I'll never figure this out. Everyone else is ahead of me. They may feel small in the moment, but they slowly shape how you see yourself. They convince you that you're incapable even when you're not. And here is what's wild. Most people are far crueler to themselves than they would ever be to a friend. If a friend said, I messed up this project, you would probably reassure them, it's okay, you'll figure it out. But when it's you pile on, you're always behind, you'll never get it right. That constant internal attack doesn't make you stronger, it weakens your mental resilience. It convinces you not to even try. That is self-sabotage. One small but powerful way to break this pattern is to add the word yet. Instead of I can't do this, try I can't do this yet. Instead of I'll never understand this, try saying I don't understand this yet, but I'm learning. That single word changes your mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It reminds you that you're a work in progress, not a finished product. And when you treat yourself with that compassion, you feel motivation instead of draining it. Negative self-talk is like cutting your own legs out from under you before the race even starts. But with practice, you can turn that voice into a coach instead of a critic. The fourth way people self-sabotage? Yes, it's by not taking chances. This usually happens right at the edge of growth. You prepared, you put in the work, you're standing at the door of opportunity, and then discomfort shows up. Your stomach tightens, your chest gets heavy, your mind floods with worst case scenarios, and instead of stepping forward, you back away. That might look like saying no to a promotion because it feels overwhelming, or avoiding asking someone out because you don't want to risk rejection, or talking yourself out of launching a project because you're afraid of being laughed at or failing publicly. In the short term, playing it safe feels comforting. You avoid embarrassment, rejection, or the possibility of falling short. But in the long term, it keeps you stuck because the discomfort you're feeling in those moments, that's not danger. That's the sensation of growth. That's your nervous system stretching into something new. If you back away every time you feel discomfort, you'll never discover what's actually possible for you. And the fifth way you self-sabotage is perfectionism. This one is sneaky because on the outside, perfectionists don't look like they're sabotaging themselves. They look like they're working incredibly hard. They polish, they refine, they over-prepare. People often admire them for their dedication. But underneath, perfectionism delays action. It convinces you that unless something is flawless, it isn't worth doing at all. That leads to endless editing, overthinking, and tweaking, while the real opportunities pass you by. Think about the book that never gets published because it's never ready. The job application that never gets submitted because the resume doesn't feel perfect. The conversation that never happens because you don't have the right words yet. Perfectionism looks like high standards, but underneath, it's fear dressed up as productivity, and the cost is enormous. Missed opportunities, strained relationships, and stalled growth. Because while you're waiting for perfect, life is moving forward without you. So why does all of this happen? Why do we get in our own way even when we want something really badly? The first thing to understand is that self-sabotage isn't random. It's not laziness and it's not weakness. It's driven by the core beliefs you carry about yourself. These beliefs live so deep inside of you that most of the time you don't even realize they're shaping your behavior. If deep down you believe you're not worthy of success, not lovable, or not capable, then any experience that challenges those beliefs won't feel exciting. It's gonna feel wrong. It can even feel unsafe. These things clash with the story you've told yourself about who you are. And when that clash happens, the brain does what it always does. it tries to protect you. It pulls you back to what feels familiar, even if that familiar place is painful, because the brain is wired to choose the predictable over the unknown. Familiar suffering feels safer than unfamiliar success. That's why athletes choke at the finish line. It's not because they didn't train hard enough, it's because winning contradicts a belief like, I don't deserve to win. The pressure of that contradiction overwhelms them, and suddenly their body falters. It's why someone blows up a relationship right before it's getting serious, because deep down their belief might be, I'm unlovable, and when their partner starts showing real love, it feels foreign. Instead of leaning into it, they create conflict to bring things back to the familiar state of rejection. It's why a person ruins a career opportunity that they have been working towards for years. On paper, they're qualified, they've earned it, but inside, a belief whispers, you're not capable, you're going to fail. So they self-sabotage the interview, miss deadlines, or accidentally make mistakes because success feels more threatening than staying stuck. That is the cruel irony of self-sabotage. Your brain is trying to protect you. It doesn't want you to face the pain of failure, rejection, or being exposed, but in doing so, it traps you in the very cycle you want to escape. So when you notice yourself pulling back right when things are going well, it's not because you're weak, it's because a deeper belief inside of you is screaming, this doesn't match who I am. And until that belief is rewritten, your brain will keep choosing familiarity over growth. So how do you fix it? The solution isn't to grind harder, hustle more, or try to push through. That just adds pressure. The real solution is to start changing those core beliefs into more realistic and more compassionate ones. And you do that by integrating evidence. Notice when you do something well, no matter how small, and ask yourself, the fact that I did this, what does this say about me? For example, if you handled a stressful conversation calmly, that is evidence you can stay composed under pressure. If you followed through on a commitment, that's evidence you are reliable. If you tried something outside of your comfort zone, even if it wasn't perfect, that is evidence that you're willing to grow. This isn't about cheesy affirmations that you don't believe. It's about collecting real, lived evidence and letting it slowly reshape your self-image. Another powerful tool is imagery. Picture yourself doing the thing you normally avoid, whether it's speaking up in a meeting, standing up for yourself, or pushing through an obstacle. Visualization isn't daydreaming, it's rehearsal for your brain. When you mentally practice success, your brain begins to treat it as possible. And when the moment actually comes, you're less likely to sabotage it because your mind has already rehearsed you succeeding. And finally, here's a practical exercise I like to call the Positive Scavenger Hunt. Every day, find one small piece of evidence that contradicts your negative core belief and write it down. Maybe it's someone thanking you. Maybe it's you finishing something you doubted you could do. Maybe it's simply getting through a tough day without quitting. Each piece may feel small, but they stack. They build into a new belief system, one that actually reflects who you are, not who your fears tell you to be. So to sum it up, self-sabotage isn't about weakness, it's about protection. Your brain is trying to keep you safe from pain by pulling you back to what is familiar. But familiar isn't always good. The way forward is to notice the way sabotage shows up in your life, trace it back to the beliefs that are driving it, and then begin rewriting those beliefs by collecting evidence, practicing imagery, and stacking small, consistent wins. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and see you in the next one.